Welcome to the new episode of Get the Steps In. This is an educational episode on nutrition, so just a short video sticking to one topic. And quick plug, my name's Aaron McGuigan. I'm an online coach and bodybuilder. If you find any of this information useful and want more help with your fitness journey, shoot me a DM or message me on WhatsApp and I should be able to help you out and make sure you're a proper fit for the team. So yeah, we'll get straight into this. First thing when it comes to nutrition is setting up our calories. So what we need to do is firstly work out our maintenance calories. Easy way to do this is just look up online maintenance calorie tracker and put in your info. Usually it's like 10 calories times your weight in pounds will give you your BMR, and then you'll times your BMR by kind of an activity multiplier, and that'll give you your rough maintenance calories. But again, that is just a guide, and the number doesn't really matter that much, because what you're going to do is work that out and then eat at the maintenance amount and just see where your weight goes and then adjust from there based off of your goal, because this maintenance target that you get is probably going to be slightly lower. It's usually on the lower end, and it's different for everyone, so you just need to see how your body reacts. So like eat at that maintenance for a week, see how your body reacts. Do you lose weight, then you're in deficit. If you're gaining weight, then you're obviously in the surplus, and then go from there. So once we have our maintenance calories, we then want to get our macros. So easy way for protein is just a gram per pound of body weight is the easiest way to do it. I like to have this gram per pound of body weight in complete food sources, and then, or complete protein sources, should I say. So meat, fish, dairy, whey, things like that, where we're getting the full amino acid profile for the protein. But if we go at the gram amount for that, then our protein will come higher naturally through trace from carbohydrate, as we kind of want higher than a gram per pound. So like maybe 1.3 to 1.5 for, actual bodybuilding purposes, as a gram is kind of on the lower end. But like I say, if we get the gram from complete food sources and then let trace carb, or trace protein from carbohydrate, just creep that up to the higher amount. But so once we have our protein, so like your weight in pounds, times that by 4 gets the calorie amount. Take that away from our total calories that we've worked out we need, the maintenance calories, and then obviously write these numbers down. Then what we'll do next is work out our fat intake. So usually go from like kind of 15 to 30% of our total calories will be from fat. But this number is somewhat arbitrary. I like to have on a training day from around maybe 40 to 70 gram of fat, and on a rest day maybe from like 60 to 100 grams of fat, just as like nice amounts. Whereas sometimes if you go solely based off the percentage, it can put your fats a touch higher than they need to be at that kind of 30% rate, especially if you're somebody who takes a lot of calories anyways. But just do that, get a rough estimate and kind of look at the number and think, is it higher than we need it to be? And then I'll touch on the kind of point I made there of having two different numbers for different days. But work out the fat amount you need times, I'm getting muddled up here. No, so we've worked out the percentage of our total calories that we need from fat. Divide that by 9, because there's 9 calories per gram of fat. That will give us our fat amount. So now we have our protein amount and our fat amount, and then minus them 2 calories. So the total calorie of the protein, total calorie of the fat from our maintenance calories that we worked out. That will give us a number of calories we have left. Divide that by 4, and then we have our carbohydrate intake. Now, we kind of for most people in a bodybuilding sense, we're going to want a training day and a non-training day food. Yes, based off of different kind of routines and things like that, where say we don't know, what exact days we'll be training, and things like that. We might have just one set amount of food that we eat every day. It's just, as long as you're in a deficit or a surplus, it doesn't overly matter. The reason we do have training day and non-training day food for most people is that on training day, we have more demand for carbohydrate to fuel training performance. And on a rest day, we simply just don't have a pre or post-workout meal that would usually be higher in carbohydrate intake. So it'll be lower on our rest day. And then we can bring fats up as carbohydrate is naturally lower, to make up sort of for the lower carbohydrate on the training day. So once we have our kind of calories and macros worked out, and the training day and non-training day, that could be anywhere from like a 200 calorie to 1,000 calorie difference. I really wouldn't stress about this too much. Again, the number is arbitrary. Just see how your weight reacts. So once we've worked out this kind of our macros and our calories, and then split that across 5 meals for most people is a good amount, like sustainable amount. So on a rest day, just simply split it in 5, have kind of 5 equally sized meals. Then on the training day, what we want to have is split the protein amount in 5, so an equal protein hit from each meal. And then on our pre and post workout meal, we want to have 50% of our carbohydrate intake in them 2 meals. So our pre and our post are our highest carbohydrate meals to fuel training performance, and then replenish glycogen / recover from our training session. Now, once we have done that, we also and we've tracked for a week. So we've worked out our calories, we've split our food up for our different meals. Eat that for a week or 2 weeks, see how your body reacts, and then we can kind of dictate what phase we're going into. So if we're going into a gaining phase, probably look to bump these calories up anywhere from 5 to 20%. If your body weight is going down, I'd probably opt for a larger jump. If your body weight is just staying the same, play it safe and go with that kind of 5% range, because we can always add in more food, but if you kind of put on fat unnecessarily, you can't take that away. So be more cautious. Like, our training performance is our biggest metric in a gaining phase of when to kind of increase food. Like, if your training performance is still skyrocketing, going through the roof, you're getting stronger, you feel really good to train, but your weight is going quite slow, just leave the food where it is. We don't need to just throw food when our training performance is there. But it's has our weight been stalled for a while and our training performance is somewhat stalling or not at the rate we would like, add in a bit more food to that training day via carbohydrate, just to kind of eke out as much as we can from the training, fuel greater training performance. Then in the fat loss phase, ideally probably drop the calories by 20 or 30% to put us firmly in a deficit. Now, whenever we've got our maintenance calories worked out, or macros split up, we've kind of decided what phase we're going into. Now it comes down to, we'll go on to food sources next. So for our protein sources, we want as much complete protein as we can get. So like I said, meat, eggs, protein, supplements. I'm just looking down here because I have everything kind of mapped out so that I don't forget anything. Eggs, like egg whites, are a good source of protein. Then we want to have our carbohydrate come from easy to digest carbohydrate sources, so predominantly rice, bagels, fruit, things like that. Then our fats, we want to come from kind of high quality olive oils, macadamia nut oil, nuts, fish, eggs, dark chocolate. So it's kind of just everything. The whole overarch should be, we want as much whole food as we can get, minimal processed food, just because whole food 9 times out of 10 will digest a lot better than processed food. And we want to kind of keep our digestion in a good spot. But again, base it off foods you like as well. Now, actually enjoying your food and liking your food does actually help with your digestion of food. So if you have foods you like, make them foods fit into your macros initially, and then over time you can kind of switch to more quote unquote optimal sources to just improve your overall nutrition. You don't need to go from 0 of like I never eat fruit and veg to like maxed out fruit and veg. Touch on that, we should try and have, you know, or 5 a day of fruit and then about 500 grams of veg with as many colors as possible. As actual, the reason veg and fruit are certain colors is based off the micronutrients in them. That's what gives them the color. So if we can eat a variety of colors, that will then give us the biggest variety of micronutrients. Kind of meal spacing, we want our meals equally spaced out, so 2 to kind of 3 hours between meals. Obviously that's for like optimal reasons. Again, overarching thing of everything is sustainability and fitting it in with your day. Like maybe with your work schedule, you can't eat every 2 to 3 hours, so you'll have to change your meals about a bit. Maybe you'll eat 4 meals, or, you know, 4 bigger meals and 1 smaller kind of snack maybe after work just before you go and train. So you have to adapt it to yourself and make it sustainable. The most important bit is actually just getting the calories in and the, you know, macronutrients in that we need. So we've got our food worked out, what we need to eat. We've got these sources. We want, you know, high quality protein sources, easy to digest carbohydrate, high quality fats, a variety of fruit and veg in our diet. Then we'll come down to a specific meal kind of priority. So the kind of 3 most important meals are: number 1, the pre-workout meal; number 2, the post-workout meal; and number 3, the pre-bed meal. Now these are going to be extra important in a dieting phase when we're really trying to keep training performance high. So what does the most optimal pre-workout meal look like? We have an easy to digest protein source, an easy to digest carbohydrate source, so glucose based, probably a fructose based carbohydrate source as well, so some fruit. I like to have blueberries as my kind of fruit source in my pre-workout meal because it also is high in nitric oxide, so I'll get a better pump. Again, vegetables such as beetroot are also good in the pre-workout meal. Then we need a fat source as well in this meal, just so we're not just burning through all this carbohydrate straight away. Slow down the kind of uptake of carbohydrate throughout our training session so that we don't crash. So I like to have dark chocolate, as again also high in cocoa flavonoids, which better pump in the gym. So like that's what my pre-workout meal looks like. It's chicken, rice, some veg, blueberries, beetroot, dark chocolate, and a bagel. Now, does your pre-workout meal have to be like this? No, it could literally be protein, so like protein powder, some kind of carbohydrate source, so like cream of rice is a popular one, and then maybe a Squares bar or a banana or something like that. Just, you know, you can make it as simple or as complex as you like. You're not gonna make no gains because you don't have beetroot in your pre-workout meal. We just want a meal that is high in carbohydrate, good source of protein, and will digest easily before we go and train and fuel us for a session. And in an ideal world, we keep the if you're one of these people who's like, oh, I need, you know, variety in my diet, have the variety from your other meals. Try and keep your pre and your post-workout meal the same. Your post-workout meal is essentially the same as your pre-workout meal, except ideally we just don't have a direct fat source, because we don't need to like slow down the uptake of carbohydrate from that meal. If anything, we want it to be as fast as possible post-workout to replenish glycogen and just recover from the session. Then our third, most prioritized meal would be our pre-bed meal. And it's especially important in the dieting phase because we want to have carbohydrate in this final meal of the day so that we aren't going to bed really hungry. As if we, take carbohydrate out of this meal, which if you're on a prep or something, it will probably come to that at a point of, have to do this. You're going to be waking up in the night hungry, and we just don't want that to happen for as long as possible. So we could have no carbohydrate in our breakfast and say our one other meal, and then keep carbs in our pre, post and pre-bed. Maybe even, I know I said it in hierarchy, it goes pre, post and then pre-bed, but it could also come to the point where it's we're keeping the highest amount of carb in the pre, and then we split the carb between the post and the pre-bed, because if it comes down to it, a better night's sleep is more important than carbohydrate post-workout. So something to think about. But then at the other end of the spectrum, peak bulk, our food is so high that our carbohydrates or intake might actually be fairly evenly spaced between all 5 meals, just because it's so high. For digestion reasons, you might not be able to digest over 200 grams of carbs in one meal, so it could be split evenly. If you're on, say, I'm gonna have to do some maths here, but say 500 carb for simplicity, that could be split fairly evenly between your 5 meals. Or say 600 carb, we have 150 carb in our pre and post, and then all the other ones are 100. I think that adds to 600 off the top of my head. Not here to do quick maths. And that is pretty much the overall basis. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Again, I know I said post-workout meal, we don't ideally want direct fat source, but if it came to it and there's a bit of fat in your post-workout meal, are you suddenly making no gains? No. The most important overall hierarchy is sustainability to the diet, and then enjoying the food. That'll come into that sustainability. So your routine and enjoyment of the food. Then we want prioritizing our macros and having whole food sources. Then it's timing of meals and things like that. So we want to make sure we're hitting our calories and macros first, then focusing on having good food sources, then meal timing, and timing of meals is the overall hierarchy. It doesn't matter if you're timing your meals right if you're not actually hitting your calorie or macro target, because you're not making the progress in the phase that you want. So don't maximize in the minors, if that makes sense. Make sure we're getting each level ticked off before we go on to the next thing. So yeah, that is the video complete. Hopefully that gives you a nice overarching view of how to set up your nutrition. If you have any more questions on setting up your nutrition, or you need help with that, shoot me a message. I'll help you out for free and give you a few tips on your current diet, or things I would tweak in order to make it better. So yeah, if you enjoyed the video, please drop a comment on YouTube, give me a rating on Spotify, and I will keep bringing out more educational videos and more of my guest videos as well. So thank you for listening.